Welcome back. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer because today we are looking at something truly profound for the Torah-observant believer. We're taking a deep dive into Psalm 26, but we aren't just reading it as an ancient song, we really need to see it for what it actually is. This is a formal legal appeal presented directly before the Supreme Court of Heaven. I mean, just imagine stepping into the highest courtroom in existence. You're facing down false accusations, slander, or just the immense daily pressure to compromise with corrupt influences, and instead of caving, you present your entire life before Yahweh. That is exactly what David is doing here, and let me tell you, it sets an incredibly powerful precedent for our own walks. So, our spiritual journey through this text is going to move in 5 distinct steps. First, we'll look at the request for a divine audit, then separating from the lawless, encircling Yahweh's holy altar, standing on level ground, and finally, perfect fulfillment in Yeshua. Let's get to it. Section 1, the request for divine audit, inviting the Supreme Court of Heaven. What's really fascinating about David's approach here is just his absolute boldness. When he's facing the pressure of the world, he doesn't shrink back in fear of divine judgment, and he definitely doesn't try to hide his flaws. Instead, he actively, willingly invites Yahweh's intense scrutiny into his life. Listen to how David cries out, quote, "Vindicate me, O Yahweh, for I have walked in my integrity. I have also trusted in Yahweh. I shall not slip. Examine me, O Yahweh, and prove me. Try my mind and my heart. For your loving kindness is before my eyes, and I have walked in your truth." End quote. Man, this is a dramatic legal imperative. He's saying, Shofteni Yahweh, judge me, vindicate me. He is literally asking for his character, his motives, and his daily walk to be completely audited by the Creator. To ask for the supreme audit, David uses 3 highly specific Hebrew terms. And get this, they're actually metallurgical terms used for testing and refining metal. The first one is bahaneni. This means to examine or inspect my outward habits and visible conduct. He's essentially saying, Yahweh, look closely at what I do every single day. Look at my physical actions and see if my walk actually aligns with your Torah. But he definitely doesn't stop at the surface. Next, we run into the word naseni. This is brilliant because it illustrates how David invites Elohim to probe even deeper. Naseni means to put my motives through a practical test to verify their genuine quality. So it's not just about what you do on the outside, it's about verifying exactly why you're doing it on the inside. Are your motives actually pure? And then, we hit the most intense test of the whole bunch. Tzarfacha kiriotai velibi. Try my mind and heart. This paints a vivid picture of an extreme refining process. It translates to refining his deepest inner thoughts, his kiliot, or kidneys, which scripturally represent raw emotions, and his core willpower, his lev, or heart, like silver in a blazing furnace. He's literally asking Yahweh to turn up the heat and burn away any hidden dross. So here's the crucial point. How in the world can any human being be confident enough to ask for a furnace-level audit from the Most High? Well, David's confidence rests firmly on 2 massive pillars. First, his outward integrity, his unwavering commitment to actually live out the Torah. And second, his internal focus on Yahweh's covenant love, which is Tesed, and truth, which is Emet. Without our eyes firmly fixed on his truth and mercy, we could never survive the scrutiny of the Supreme Court of Heaven. Moving on to Section 2, separating from the lawless, or the architecture of covenant separation. Now, true integrity isn't just about the good things we embrace. It's equally about the corrupt things we absolutely reject. To walk in Torah, we have to draw deliberate, uncompromising boundaries in our lives. Listen to how David sets these strict boundaries in the text. Quote, I have not sat with idolatrous mortals, nor will I go in with hypocrites. I have hated the assembly of evildoers, and will not sit with the wicked. End quote. Notice the absolute terms he's using here. David demonstrates a complete, unapologetic refusal to participate in the lifestyle, the habits, or the secret counsels of the lawless. He knows full well that spiritual compromise is a fatal trap. There's a really profound architecture of covenant separation happening right here, laid out in 3 highly logical steps. First up, we've got negative separation, refusing to sit with hypocrites and evildoers. You literally have to step away from the dark before you can do anything else. Second is sanctuary cleansing, washing your hands in innocence. And only then do you reach the 3rd step, positive alignment, where you are actually permitted to encircle Yahweh's altar. You just cannot mix the holy with the profane. All right, Section 3, Encircling Yahweh's Holy Altar, because true worship requires clean hands. This step focuses heavily on the sanctuary cleansing and the profound, trembling reverence required to even approach the presence of Elohim. David captures this reverence perfectly. Quote, "I will wash my hands in innocence, so I will go about your altar, O Yahweh, that I may proclaim with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all your wondrous works. Yahweh, I have loved the habitation of your house and the place where your glory dwells." End quote. The imagery here is stunningly physical and deeply intentional. He isn't just metaphorically clean, he is conceptually washing his hands in innocence before coming anywhere near the altar. And this is where our Torah connection for this explainer comes into play. This imagery draws directly upon Exodus chapter 30, verses 17 through 21, where the priests were strictly instructed to wash at the bronze laver before ever approaching the sacrificial altar. David is applying this exact spiritual boundary to his own personal life. The takeaway for you and me is crystal clear. True, acceptable worship for the believer is absolutely impossible without moral purity and clean hands. Section 4. Standing on level ground. The plea for preservation. Having established those strict boundaries and spiritually cleansed his hands, David now draws a stark, dramatic contrast between his righteous path and the destructive trajectory of those who entirely reject Yahweh's statutes. Listen to his urgent cry here, quote, "Do not gather my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloodthirsty men, in whose hands is a sinister scheme, and whose right hand is full of bribes. But as for me, I will walk in my integrity. Redeem me and be merciful to me. My foot stands in an even place. In the congregations I will bless Yahweh." End quote. This is David's vital, desperate plea. He is begging Yahweh to preserve his destiny so his soul doesn't get swept away in the judgment reserved for the wicked. Let's just compare these two realities for a second. On one side, you have the Anshe Damim, the bloodthirsty men. Their hands are full of sinister schemes and bribes. They are walking on incredibly slippery, deceptive slopes that only lead to a sudden downfall. But contrast that with the Torah-observant covenant believer. Because they make the choice to walk in integrity and constantly seek his mercy, they are anchored securely on solid, level bedrock. And all of this leads to one of the most triumphant declarations in all the Psalms. Rugli amada v'mishor, my foot stands in an even place. This is something to celebrate for sure. This isn't just about physical balance, it's a profound guarantee of spiritual stability. Because his life is audited, cleansed, and aligned with the Torah, he stands on unshakable ground. And it's exactly this even place that empowers us to stand securely and bless Yahweh openly in the assembly of the righteous. Which brings us to Section 5, Perfect Fulfillment in Yashua, the ultimate expression. This is really where the entire spiritual journey we've been tracing culminates. You see, for the Torah-observant community, Psalm 26 isn't just an ancient prayer of David. It finds its absolute, flawless realization in one specific person. There are three beautiful ways that show exactly how Messiah Yashua fulfilled this text perfectly. First, the only sinless walk. Yashua alone could step before the Father with absolute, unblemished integrity, completely pure in mind, heart, and deed, passing that ultimate metallurgical test of the heart. Second, he was separated from sinners. He walked among the people to heal and teach, but he never once adopted the hypocrisy, the corruption, or the legalistic schemes of the religious elite of his day. And third, he became the living temple. He loved the Father's glory so much that he offered himself as the ultimate sacrifice for our redemption. So why does this matter so much for us today? Well, because through his perfect sacrifice, we are redeemed, or pedaini. We have to understand that it is solely through Yahshua's perfect integrity that we are granted the clean hands necessary to stand before the altar of the Most High. He washed us so that our feet can stand in that even place. Which brings us to a final, provocative question to leave you with today. Are you willing to invite Yahweh's daily audit to keep your feet anchored in integrity? True spiritual strength requires intense personal accountability. So, I challenge you today to boldly invite Elohim to test your motives, your thoughts, and your actions against the perfect mirror of his Torah every single day. Guard your fellowship closely, ensure your hands are washed clean, and stand firm on the bedrock of his truth. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and may your feet always stand on his level path.